Surprise, surprise, you are getting a second video today. I know, shocking, but there is quite a substantial update to the video I made earlier today talking about US pre-orders. So make sure you check out that video if you haven't already, as some of this stuff that we're going to be talking about in this video is kind of contingent on what I discussed first in that video. But there's something else I want to talk about too, and it involves the Nintendo Switch 2 camera and the various camera accessories that we have seen. So if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and be sure to turn on notifications because I'm uploading all the time, pal. But let's talk about this Switch camera situation first, because obviously we were introduced to the Nintendo Switch 2 camera accessory that retails for $49.99 and allows you to video chat and screen share with other people if you have, of course, Nintendo Switch Online, because if you don't, then you don't have access to any sort of voice chat. Yes, paywalling voice chat and video chat on a Nintendo Switch 2 system. That's the new Nintendo, baby. It's all about greed and money. But people seem to notice something with this camera that, well, it didn't look very good. It was very choppy when utilizing the camera or utilizing the screen share technology. And many people were like, well, why does it look like that? Like, that's probably not how it's supposed to look. But we did learn from Nintendo themselves, due to some interviews that were done, that this was basically done with keeping horsepower in mind for the Nintendo Switch 2, so that the system itself can focus more so on the games than the screen sharing elements and the video chat elements that are being used. So you could kind of make the question as to, like, what's the point of even doing it in the first place? You know, if that's the case, if this isn't a priority, like, just do normal voice chat. Like, I can't think of a time where I'm like, wow, I'd really like to watch my friend's screen at like 10 frames a second to see what they're doing if we're playing a multiplayer game, when I mean, we can just all be on the screen at the same time. But there was a bit of a hope that maybe with different cameras, it would actually run better. And that's where we are introduced to Hori's Piranha Plant USB-C camera. This thing looked really cool and people were really hyped about it. But then, oh boy, this thing stinks. So the camera on the Nintendo Switch 2, the official camera, is a 1080p image. Now, it definitely doesn't look like 1080p, but it is allegedly a 1080p image. Maybe if you're just talking with like one person, it'll be a little bit clearer, or depending on the game, even though they showed 4 swords and it didn't look any better. But that is a 1080p camera. The Hori Plant camera is 480p. Why in God's name are you releasing a 480p camera in the year of 2025? There is nobody on this earth that is saying, you know what, I'd really like a 480p camera for my Nintendo Switch 2. And the problem is, people aren't going to realize this. They're going to see the cool ass. This happened to me. I was like, well, I'll buy the Hori Plant one, and, you know, I can make a video on that. It looks much cooler. The little piranha plant, like, it closes its mouth when you want to close the camera. But for a 480p image, like, no, you go to hell with that. Like, who signed off on this? Who thought this was a good idea? So not only are you going to have, like, a reduced frame rate and a poor image quality to begin with, but now it's a 480p image. So I don't know, man. I don't like that. I think that's very sneaky. I think it's very deceitful. So tell your friends, tell your family, if they're looking forward to the Piranha Plant camera from Hori because it looks cute, save your damn money. And you probably have a USB-C camera that will work with the Nintendo Switch 2, so don't buy one of these at all. But we do have to talk about some good old pre-order goodness. Like I said earlier in the video, I did talk about US pre-orders in the video today, the good things happening with it, the socioeconomic breakdowns, when we could see the system, of course, be revealed as to being able to be pre-ordered in the US and in Canada, and I think that date is probably pretty solid. But of course, we have to wonder about supply, because what's happening right now with all of these tariffs and the pausing of the tariffs and stuff like that, really, you only have a guarantee for 90 days. And, you know, ideally, everything will be worked out between then and now, and you won't have to worry about what happens in 90 days. But obviously, companies are going to want to increase stock of their products that come from various countries that are being impacted. You know, China, that's kind of a lost cause right now, unless, you know, something changes with that. But other countries out in Asia, you know, it's going to be important to get your manufacturing in order. Well, we actually have some interesting information coming to us from Bloomberg via My Nintendo News. I'll have a link to it in the description box down below. Nintendo seemingly stockpiling millions of Switch 2 consoles from Vietnam for U.S. launch. So basically, Bloomberg talked about this, saying that it looks like they were building a lucrative stockpile of millions in February of 2025 alone. There's actually a graph. I don't know if we can see it because Bloomberg likes to take money. Yeah, there's basically a graph that accompanies this that I saw on Twitter as well that shows it's about 2 million plus units have been sent to the United States via Vietnam in the month of February. And of course, that's just 1 month. The system isn't coming out until June. And with news of this sort of thing that's happening right now with the tariffs and the world economy and stuff like that, obviously Nintendo is probably going to increase those numbers even more so because A, they want to have ample stock available just in case something happens, or I guess I should say doesn't happen between now and the 90-day period. But B, they want to have a large stock of these for pre-orders of this system. Like, I get it. I don't think this is going to sell as well as the Switch did. I honestly think we're seeing DS to 3DS sort of thing with the Switch 1 to the Switch 2. When you factor in the economy, when you factor in the $80 games, when you factor in a lot of the nickel and diming and the higher price point of the Nintendo Switch 2, I just don't see it hitting the same crazy metrics that the Switch 1 did. And the Switch 1 also had the benefit of being involved in the pandemic and, release it being already established, Animal Crossing coming out. Like, I don't think the next Animal Crossing is going to sell as much as the Switch 1 version did or anything like that. But I do think the system is going to be very, very strong out of the gate, whether it's because of people actually wanting the system or people wanting to potentially scalp the system. There's going to be a large demand for this. I mean, I'm in demand for it. I want to buy all this stuff, except for that godforsaken Hori camera. What the hell is wrong? How could you do that to people? A 480p camera. You should be disgusted with yourself. You should be disgusted and ashamed. But I think this is good stuff. The more the merrier with this, especially with the uncertainty looming on the future. If you don't think that PlayStation and Xbox are doing, well, at least PlayStation, because Xbox is only selling like 2 million a year. If you don't think PlayStation is mass manufacturing stuff right now and, increasing orders and increasing quantities to be shipped to the US, like that's ridiculous to me, because 90 days from now, you're going to be in the summer, and when you're in the summer, you're starting to prepare for the holiday season, especially when you're a business, you're looking at things like that. So this is going to be something that you'll probably hear about PlayStation and, jokes aside, Xbox as well, definitely ramping up production of their systems and shipping a lot of them to the US. And, because North America is really the biggest market. When you look at European sales or Japanese sales of consoles or games or stuff like that, the US market is the biggest market, and they need to focus that with their consoles, especially when you have to worry about things like ongoing tariff situations. So that is the latest and greatest. Hopefully it is easy to get a Switch 2. I would rather end up with like 3 of them than none of them. So I'm going to be pre-ordering from like every place I can, like Target, Best Buy, Wally World, GameStop, wherever. Whoever's doing pre-orders, I will be signing up for those pre-orders. So let me know what you think of everything in the comments section down below. Are you hopeful that your pre-order will be able to be picked up? And what do you think about that stupid-ass Piranha plant? Shame on you, Hori. You usually make good stuff. But this plant, I'm not letting this shit go. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Hit the bell as well so you're not missing out on any uploads. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.